Hey guys, tonight we begin with a journey into the heart of 19th century despair. We're diving into the brutal, bureaucratic nightmare of the Victorian Workhouse. Forget the romanticized Dickensian tales of eventual redemption. The truth is a grey, grinding machine designed to crush the human spirit. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what we do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that low, constant drone, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Congratulations, you've just stumbled, exhausted and starving, towards the towering, spike-topped walls of St. Pancras Workhouse. The year is 1845. The good news, you're about to get a roof over your head. The bad news, that roof comes with a price tag of pure, unadulterated misery. Your first sight is the architecture itself. It's not built to welcome you. It's built to intimidate you. High, soot-stained brick walls that seem to suck the light from the overcast London sky. Sharp, iron spikes line the top like metallic teeth, a clear message to anyone thinking of leaving early. The air is thick with the smell of coal smoke, industrial acid, and something else underneath it all. The faint, sweet and sour stench of unwashed bodies and despair. You can hear the distant rhythmic clank of machinery from within, a metallic heartbeat for this prison of the poor. The massive wooden gate, studded with iron bolts, looks less like a door and more like the entrance to a fortress designed to keep the unwanted in, not invaders out. You shuffle forward in a line of the broken. The man in front of you is coughing, a wet, rattling sound that speaks of lungs ruined by factory dust. A woman clutches the hands of two silent, wide-eyed children, their faces smudged with dirt and hunger. No one speaks. The only sounds are the scuff of worn-out boots on cobblestones and the occasional muffled sob that is quickly swallowed by the damp, heavy air. This is your new family, your new home, your new life, or what's left of it. You reach the gatehouse, a small, grim office where a man in a dark, formal suit sits behind a tall desk. This is the relieving officer. He doesn't look at you, he looks through you. His face is a mask of bureaucratic indifference. He has a ledger book open in front of him, its pages filled with tiny, precise handwriting, a catalogue of human ruin. The pen in his hand scratches against the paper, a sound like insects chewing on wood. "Name?" he asks, his voice flat and devoid of any emotion that might suggest he considers you a fellow human being. You mumble your name. It feels insignificant here. "Parish of settlement?" he continues, not waiting for you to finish the first answer. "You have to prove you belong here, in this specific district of misery. If you can't, you'll be passed along, a human parcel of misfortune, to the next parish and the next, until someone reluctantly agrees to take you in. This is the first test, and you've already failed it by simply being here. You are now a statistic, a problem to be processed." The questioning is humiliation ritual number one. He wants to know everything: where you were born, what trade you practiced, why you are no longer practicing it, who your relatives are, and why they won't support you. Each question is a small, precise incision into your dignity. The underlying assumption in every word is that your poverty is your own fault, a moral failure, a weakness of character. You are lazy, you are sinful, you are a drunkard. The system isn't here to help you, it's here to punish you for needing help. This is the principle of less eligibility. Life inside the workhouse must be made so utterly, unbearably awful that it is a last resort, worse than the most squalid, starving existence outside its walls. They are not offering a hand up, they are offering a lesson. And the lesson is, don't be poor. Once the relieving officer is satisfied he has drained you of every last ounce of personal history, he nods to a uniformed porter. This man is built differently. Broad shoulders, a thick neck, a face that has seen and delivered violence. He doesn't speak. He just gestures for you to follow him through the inner gate. The sound of it swinging shut behind you is final, a deep, resonant thud that seals your fate. The outside world, with all its problems, is now gone. You are in. The courtyard you enter is a vast paved square surrounded by the same oppressive brick buildings. The windows are uniformly small and barred. There are no decorations, no colors, no trees, no life. Just grey stone, grey sky, and the pale grey faces of the inmates shuffling across the yard in silent, ordered lines. They wear identical, coarse uniforms of rough, dun-coloured wool. They don't make eye contact. They are ghosts already, their personalities stripped away, replaced by a number and a routine. The porter leads you to the receiving ward. This is where you are officially processed, like a piece of livestock brought to market. The smell here is stronger, antiseptic and lye soap trying and failing to mask the base notes of sweat and decay. Men and women are immediately separated. If you came in with family, this is where you say goodbye. Husbands are torn from wives, mothers are torn from children. The workhouse system was designed to break up families, to destroy the very units that could provide comfort and solidarity. A child's cry echoes down a stone corridor, abruptly cut off by the slam of a heavy door. You will not see your loved ones again, except for maybe a few supervised hours on a Sunday if you're lucky. Your old life, your old identity, it ends here. Next comes the bath. But this isn't about getting clean. This is about delousing and degradation. You are ordered to strip off your own clothes, the last tangible remnants of your life before this place. They are taken away, to be stored or most likely burned. You stand naked and shivering in a cold, tiled room, while a workhouse attendant looking bored gives you a cursory inspection for disease and vermin. There's no privacy, no modesty. Your body is no longer your own. It is now the property of the parish. The bath itself is a large communal tub filled with lukewarm, sudsy water that dozens of others have already been through. The soap is coarse, smelling strongly of carbolic, and it stings your skin. You are scrubbed with a stiff, bristled brush, not gently, the attendant working with the impersonal efficiency of a farmer washing a sheep. When you are done, you are hosed down with cold water. The shock of it steals your breath. You are then given your new uniform. The fabric is scratchy and stiff, like wearing a sack made of hay and regret. It itches immediately. It's designed to itch. Everything here is designed to remind you of your place. The final step is the interview with the master of the workhouse. He is the absolute monarch of this tiny, miserable kingdom. His office is slightly warmer than the rest of the building, but no less grim. He sits behind a large desk, and he doesn't invite you to sit. You stand before him, your hair still damp, your skin raw, dressed in the humiliating uniform. He outlines the rules. His voice is calm, firm, and utterly terrifying. The day starts at 5 a.m. with the bell. You will work for at least 10 hours. The tasks are deliberately monotonous and pointless. Men will break stones for roads that will never be built, or grind animal bones into fertilizer in a room that stinks of death and lime. Women will pick oakum, teasing apart old tar-covered ship ropes with their fingers until they are raw and bleeding. The tar embedding itself under their nails, the fibers cutting into their skin. Meals are taken in silence. Talking is punished. Disobedience is punished. Laziness is punished. The punishments are swift and severe. Reduced rations, solitary confinement in a pitch-black cell, or a beating. The objective here is reform through discipline, the master says, his eyes cold. You will learn industry. You will learn order. You will learn to regret the life choices that brought you to my door. He dismisses you with a wave of his hand. You are led to your sleeping quarters. The dormitory is a long, barren room filled with rows of iron-framed beds. The mattresses are thin, stuffed with coarse straw that pokes through the ticking. There is one thin grey blanket. The room is freezing. As you lie down on the crackling straw, listening to the coughs and snores of dozens of other broken men, the reality sinks in. This isn't rock bottom. This is the foundation upon which rock bottom is built. And your day, your real first day in the workhouse, hasn't even properly begun yet. The bell will ring at 5 a.m. and the true grinding down of your soul will commence. Continuing on from the shock of admission, the theory of your new life becomes a brutal, waking reality. The 5 a.m. bell doesn't so much ring as it attacks, a violent, clanging alarm that seems to shake the very iron frame of your bed. Your body, stiff from the cold and the unfamiliar hardness of the straw mattress, screams in protest. The dormitory erupts into a chorus of coughs, groans, and the frantic shuffling of feet on cold stone as dozens of men are jolted into another identical day of suffering. There is no slow waking, no lingering in the warmth of a blanket. There is only the bell and the absolute non-negotiable requirement to obey it. The master of the workhouse, or more likely his brutal deputy, a man named Higgs, with knuckles like rocks and a permanent scowl, is already standing at the door. He doesn't need to shout. His presence is enough. He carries a short, stout stick, not for show, and he taps it against his leg as he watches you all form a line. "Move," is all he says, and the single word carries the threat of a beating, of lost meals, of the dark cell. You file out into the corridor, the scratchy wool of your uniform already chafing against skin still raw from yesterday's carbolic scrubbing. The air in the hallway is perhaps 5 degrees colder than in the dormitory, and it smells of damp stone and old porridge. Your breath mists in front of your face. This is not a building designed for human comfort. It is a machine designed for human storage, and you are a cog that must be made to turn. First order of business, the slops. In the corner of the yard, under a lean-to roof, sit a row of large, reeking wooden tubs. This is the toilet facility. There are no partitions, no seats, just these open barrels where men and women, in their separate yards, are expected to relieve themselves in full view of each other and the guards. The smell is apocalyptic, a concentrated wave of ammonia and human waste that makes your eyes water. You hold your breath, do what you must, and try to ignore the sounds around you. Privacy is a luxury you sold for a bowl of gruel. There's no toilet paper. There's a bucket of cold water and a communal rag that looks like it was last cleaned when Queen Victoria took the throne. You use your hand and the water, trying not to think about it. This is your new normal. Morning after morning, this is how you start your day. From there, you are herded into the vast, cavernous dining hall. It's a room that seems designed to crush noise as well as spirit. The walls are bare brick, the floor is flagstone, and the high ceiling swallows any sound, creating a dead, hollow atmosphere. Long wooden tables and benches are bolted to the floor in rigid rows. You are not allowed to choose where you sit. You are assigned a spot, and you will keep it. The rule of silence is enforced here with religious fervor. No talking, no whispering, no gestures. The only sounds are the scrape of wooden bowls on wood, the occasional slurp, and the slow, heavy tread of the guards patrolling the aisles. To make a sound is to invite punishment. The message is clear. You are not here to socialize. You are not here for companionship. You are here to eat fuel and prepare for work. You are an engine, and a noisy engine is a broken engine. Breakfast is served. The word breakfast is too generous. It implies a meal. What you receive is a physiological event. A warder moves down the line with a large metal pail, ladling a portion of gruel into your personal wooden bowl. Gruel is a word that sounds almost cozy, like something from a nursery rhyme. The reality is a thin, grey, lukewarm liquid with the consistency of mucus and the flavour of despair. It's made from water and the cheapest, coarsest oats available, boiled until any conceivable nutrition has been thoroughly extinguished. There are no lumps. Lumps would be a highlight. There is no salt. There is no sugar. It is sustenance in its most basic, joyless form. It doesn't fill you up, it just happens to you. On the side, you get a small hunk of bread. This isn't the rustic, artisanal loaf you might be imagining. This is a dark, dense brick made from rye and often bulked out with sawdust, potato peelings, or even chalk to make it heavier and more filling. It's so hard you could use it to hammer a nail. You don't so much chew it as you negotiate with it, working your jaw until your temples ache, trying to soften it enough to swallow without breaking a tooth. You get one bowl of gruel and one piece of this bread. This is your energy for a 10-hour workday. This is what stands between you and starvation. It's a very, very thin line. The meal, if you can call it that, is over in less than 10 minutes. There is no lingering. The bell clangs again, a sound that is already triggering a Pavlovian response of dread in your gut. You are marched out of the hall and into the workyards. This is where the real purpose of the workhouse reveals itself. The tasks are not chosen for their economic value or productivity. They are chosen for their soul-crushing monotony and their ability to punish idleness, real or imagined. The men are divided into groups. One group is set to breaking stones. You are given a large hammer and led to a mountain of flint cobbles. Your job is to smash them into smaller, fist-sized pieces for road metal. The work is brutally physical. The first swing of the hammer sends a jarring shock up your arms. The 10th swing makes your shoulders burn. The 100th swing blurs your vision with pain. You are not building anything, you are destroying. All day, under the grey sky, the only sounds are the rhythmic, punishing crack of hammer on stone and the dry, rasping cough of the man next to you, his lungs filling with sharp, crystalline dust. There is no end to the pile. You break stones until your hands are blistered and bloody, and the pile looks exactly the same. Another group, the older or weaker men, are sent to the bone-crushing room. The smell hits you before you see it. It's a sweet, cloying, nauseating odor of decay and quicklime. Here, piles of animal bones from the city's slaughterhouses and kitchens are waiting. Your job is to take these bones, some still with bits of gristle and sinew attached, and smash them with a mallet before grinding them down into a fine powder for fertilizer. The lime burns your hands and your nostrils. The dust coats your tongue, your throat, your lungs. You taste death all day. It gets in your clothes, your hair, the lines on your face. You will smell like a graveyard long after you leave this room, if you ever leave. The women and children have their own special hell. They are sent to the oakum picking shed. Oakum is the tarred fiber from old ship ropes, and it's your job to unravel it, strand by painful strand. You are given a hank of this rock-hard, blackened rope and a metal spike. You use the spike to pick and pry at the fibers, teasing them apart. The tar is sticky and gets under your fingernails, embedding itself in the cuts and sores that will inevitably open on your fingertips. The fibers are sharp as needles. Within an hour, your fingers are a bloody, sticky, blackened mess. The pain is constant, a sharp, stinging agony that makes every movement a trial. The tar smell is overpowering, giving you a permanent headache. There is no skill to this. There is no end product to be proud of. There is only the endless, painful picking, the pile of unraveled fiber growing slowly as the pile of untouched rope seems to never diminish. This is reform. This is industry. This is the Victorian solution to poverty. Take the already broken and break them a little more until they are too numb, too tired, too broken to be anything but obedient. As the light finally begins to fail, leaching the last dregs of color from the grey courtyard, the clanging bell signals not freedom, but a temporary ceasefire in the day's war of attrition. Your body is a single throbbing ache. Your hands, whether shredded by oakum, bruised by the hammer, or burned by lime, are now stiff, clumsy claws. You line up once more, a procession of the broken, and are marched back into the cavernous, silent dining hall for supper. This is the final act of the day's ritual, a meager reward for a day of monumental labor, and it does nothing to lift the weight settling in your soul. Supper is another exercise in culinary disappointment, a mirror of breakfast, but somehow even more bleak. The gruel is back, perhaps a fraction thicker, but now cold, having congealed into a sludgy paste that coats your bowl and your throat. The bread is the same rock-hard slab, a little staler, a little more difficult to wrestle into something swallowable. Sometimes, as a grand and thrilling variation, the gruel is replaced with a thin, watery broth that might contain a single ghostly piece of potato or a fragment of turnip so boiled into oblivion it has no flavor or texture left. This is not nutrition. This is the bare minimum caloric input to keep your body functioning at the lowest possible level, just enough to ensure you can get up and do it all again tomorrow. You eat in the same enforced silence, the only sound the scraping of spoons and the ominous tread of the guards. You don't taste the food, you just consume it, your mind already numb, your body running on a dull, automated reflex. The hunger doesn't go away. It just becomes a familiar, hollow background noise, a constant companion to the exhaustion. After the bowls are collected, licked clean because every single calorie is a prisoner you cannot afford to let escape, you are granted what the rulebook might call free time. This is a cruel joke. You are herded into a common room, a vast, barren space with benches along the walls. There are no books, no games, no musical instruments, no materials for writing or drawing. You are expected to sit. And that is all. You sit in silence because talking is still forbidden. You can stare at the wall, at the floor, or at the empty faces of the men around you. This is when the true psychological torture begins. With no distraction, your mind turns inward. It replays the mistakes, the bad luck, the series of unfortunate events that led you here. It contemplates the endless string of identical days stretching before you, a grey tunnel with no light at the end. This hour of leisure is where hope comes to die. It is deliberately designed to break your spirit, to make you internalize the message that you are worthless, that you deserve this, that this is your permanent station in life. Some men simply fall asleep sitting up, their bodies giving out. Others stare into a middle distance, their eyes vacant. They are the ones who have been here the longest. They are the ghosts of the workhouse, and you are on your way to joining them. Then it's the final march to the dormitory. The cold has seeped deep into the stone walls all day, and now it radiates out, making the air sharp and biting. You are allowed to use the slop buckets one last time, a humiliating group activity before bed. There is no washing up. The grime of the day, the stone dust, the bone meal, the tar stays on your skin, ground into the pores of your hands and caked under your nails. It becomes a part of you. You sleep in the filth of your labor. You climb onto your straw mattress, which has somehow become even more lumpy and unforgiving. The single thin blanket does nothing to fight off the chill that rises from the floor and pours in from the poorly fitted windows. You pull your knees to your chest, trying to conserve body heat. But the cold is insidious. It finds every gap, every opening in the coarse fabric of your uniform. The dormitory at night is a symphony of human misery. It's not quiet. The silence of the day is broken by the unconscious sounds of suffering. The coughing is the loudest, a ragged, percussive chorus from lungs ruined by dust and damp. Some coughs are dry and hacking, others are wet and phlegmy, sounds that make you instinctively hold your own breath. Then there are the snores, the groans from aching joints, the occasional whimper from a man trapped in a nightmare. Someone talks in their sleep, begging for someone named Mary. Another man cries softly, the sound muffled by his straw pillow. You lie there, shivering, listening to it all. This is the true product of the workhouse. Not the broken stones or the picked oakum, But this collective sigh of despair from hundreds of broken men, all breathing the same frigid, foul air. The smell is a layered thing. The ever-present carbolic soap, the stale sweat from the unwashed bodies, the faint, lingering odor of the slop buckets from the corner, and the sour breath of sickness. This is when the reality truly crystallizes. Colder and harder than any stone you broke today. You are not being reformed. You are not being taught a lesson. You are being processed. You are a human input in a system designed to demonstrate the moral superiority of the wealthy by grinding the poor into a non-threatening, compliant pulp. The workhouse isn't just a building. It's an ideology made of brick and mortar and starvation rations. It exists to make poverty so terrifying that people will accept any job, any wage, any condition outside its walls, and to make those inside so broken that they cease to be a political or social threat. Your individuality is being systematically erased. Your name is gone, replaced by a number and a task. Your family is gone. Your past is irrelevant. Your future is this single, repeating day. Forever. As you finally drift into a fitful, shivering sleep, the last conscious thought you have is the most terrifying one of all. You are starting to get used to it. The scratching of the uniform, the taste of the gruel, the ache in your bones. It's becoming normal. The grinding machine isn't just breaking your body, it's sanding down your soul, layer by layer, until there's nothing left but the hollowed-out shell of the person you once were. And the worst part, the bell will ring again at 5 a.m. and you will get up, because what other choice do you have? The relentless cycle of dawn, gruel, and crushing labor continues, day after indistinguishable day, until the routine itself becomes a kind of prison within the prison. But the true test of your endurance isn't the monotony. It's what happens when you inevitably break. The workhouse is a system wired for failure, and its punishments are designed not to correct, but to terrify. To make an example of anyone who dares to show a spark of defiance, despair, or simply human weakness. It starts small. Maybe you flinch during oakum picking, your bloody fingers refusing to pry apart another tar-soaked strand. Maybe you pause for a second too long while breaking stones, your muscles screaming for a respite they will never get. Or maybe, in a moment of profound loneliness, you whisper a single word to the man next to you in the stone yard. Cold, you might say. Just one word. That's all it takes. The guard, Higgs, sees it. His eyes, which usually look through you, now lock onto you with a predator's focus. He doesn't yell, he just points his stick. You, out! The punishment is immediate and public. You are dragged to the center of the yard. The other inmates are forced to stop their work and watch. This is part of the lesson. Your humiliation is their instruction. For the crime of speaking, you are put in leg irons for 24 hours. Heavy, cold iron cuffs clamped around your ankles, connected by a short chain that forces you into a shuffling, awkward walk. You are then made to continue your work. Breaking stones is now an act of exquisite torture, the weight of the irons magnifying every movement into a fresh agony. For the crime of pausing, your food ration is halved for 2 days. You watch, stomach gnawing itself into a knot, as the others get their meager portion, and you receive yours. The hunger becomes a sharp, focused pain, a personal tutor in obedience. But these are the minor corrections. The real punishments are reserved for those who try to escape the system itself. The ultimate crime is attempting to leave. The walls are high, the gates are locked, but desperation is a powerful architect. Maybe you tried to bribe a guard with a button you managed to hide, a laughable, tragic offer. Maybe you tried to scale a wall in the dead of night, your heart pounding so loud you're sure it will wake the entire parish. You almost make it, your fingers grip the top, feeling the cold, rough brick. And then you slip, or a guard dog barks, or a night watchman's lantern beam catches you, frozen like a rabbit. You are caught. Now you face the master's court. There is no jury, no lawyer, just the master, his face a mask of cold fury. The sentence is the black hole of the workhouse, solitary confinement. You are dragged to a row of cells in the basement. The door is a solid slab of oak with a small barred grate. It swings open, and the smell that wafts out is ancient, a mix of mold, stagnant water, and human fear. The cell is a cube of darkness, no window, no bed, no blanket, just a stone floor and a bucket in the corner. The door slams shut, and the world disappears. The darkness is absolute, so thick you feel you could chew it. Time becomes meaningless. You lose track of hours, then days. The silence is broken only by the scuttling of rats and the distant muffled sounds of the workhouse carrying on without you. You are fed once a day, a slice of bread and a cup of water pushed through the grate. This is where men lose their minds. They talk to themselves, they scream, they weep. When you are finally released, blinking and disoriented in the grey light, you are a different person, broken in a way that no amount of stone breaking could ever achieve. And then there is the silent, ever-present warden that no one can punish: disease. The workhouse is a perfect breeding ground for pestilence. The overcrowded dormitories, the malnutrition, the lack of hygiene, the cold, the damp. It's a buffet for bacteria and viruses. It starts with a cough that doesn't go away, then a fever, then the sweats. Tuberculosis, they call it consumption, is the most common tenant. It moves slowly, patiently, hollowing a man out from the inside. You watch as the man in the bed next to you, a fellow stonebreaker named Jacobs, dwindles. His cough becomes more violent, sometimes flecked with blood. He grows thinner, paler, until he looks like a skeleton draped in skin. One morning, he doesn't get up for the bell. The guards drag him out. He doesn't come back. Typhus is another favorite, spread by the lice that thrive in the unwashed uniforms and straw mattresses. It comes on fast, a raging fever, a blinding headache, a mottled rash. If you get sick, you are taken to the infirmary. This is not a place of healing. It is a waiting room for death. A long, bleak ward filled with rows of iron beds, each occupied by a coughing, moaning, dying soul. The air is thick with the smell of sickness and cheap disinfectant. The nurses are overworked and numb, their compassion long since eroded by the endless tide of suffering. The doctor visits once a day, if you're lucky. His treatments are medieval: leeches, blistering, purges. He has no antibiotics, no real understanding of germ theory. He is a custodian, not a savior. If you are deemed terminally ill, you are moved to the foul ward, a separate room where you are left to die without disturbing the others. Your body, when it finally gives up, is disposed of with the same bureaucratic efficiency that admitted you. If you have no family to claim you, you are buried in a pauper's grave, a pit shared with dozens of other unnamed, unlamented souls. The workhouse doesn't just break your spirit, it very often breaks your body, permanently. This is the point of no return. This is why you wouldn't last. It's not just the hunger or the labor, it's the total, systematic destruction of your personhood, your health, and your hope. The workhouse is a slow-acting poison, and every day you spend within its walls is another dose. You enter as a person in need, and you leave, if you leave at all, as a ghost, a statistic, or a corpse. There is no redemption arc here, no plucky orphan who finds a fortune. This is the grim, grey, unyielding truth of institutionalized poverty, and the bell is about to ring again. The bell rings for the final time, not just ending another day, but echoing across decades. The workhouse system, this behemoth of institutionalized cruelty, did not collapse in a single dramatic revolution. It crumbled slowly under the weight of its own grotesque inhumanity, outlived by the very people it was designed to punish. But its ghost never truly left. It simply shed its uniform and learned to walk in modern clothes. The first cracks appeared not from pity, but from pragmatism and fear. By the late 19th century, even the wealthy and powerful couldn't ignore the fact that the workhouse was creating something far more dangerous than pauperism. It was breeding revolution. Journalists and social reformers like Henry Mayhew and Charles Dickens dragged the workhouse's secrets into the light, publishing accounts and novels that exposed the brutal reality to a shocked middle class. The public, once comfortably believing the poor deserved their fate, began to feel a creeping unease. This wasn't just about lazy individuals. This was a systemic factory of misery that could, they realized, potentially boil over. The fear of social unrest, of the mob at the gate, proved more motivating than compassion. Then came the Boer War, and with it a shocking revelation. A huge proportion of potential recruits from British cities were physically unfit for service, their bodies stunted and broken by the very conditions the workhouse represented and perpetuated. The empire was being weakened from within. The state needed healthy cannon fodder more than it needed to punish the poor. The calculus of power was shifting. Slowly, reluctantly, reforms were introduced. The concept of the workhouse as a single, monolithic punishment for all began to fracture. Children were gradually removed from the general mixed workhouses and placed in separate district schools or boarded out. A recognition that maybe, just maybe, crushing a child's spirit from birth wasn't the best national policy. The sick began to be seen not as malingerers but as patients. Workhouse infirmaries, once death houses, started to evolve into the first rudimentary public hospitals, though the stigma of the pauper patient clung to them for generations. The old who had worked their entire lives only to end up in the house were granted slightly better conditions, a quiet acknowledgement that even the Victorian moral universe had limits when it came to grinding the elderly into bone meal. The worst of the punitive labor, like bone crushing, was phased out. But the core principle, the shame of being a pauper, the loss of rights, the institutional control, that remained. The machine was being polished, not dismantled. The final official death knell for the workhouse came not from Victorian England, but from the trenches of World War I and the economic collapse that followed. The war fundamentally altered the British social contract. How could you send men to die for their country and then tell them their poverty was a moral failure? The shared sacrifice, however unequal, created a new demand for a shared safety net. The 1929 Local Government Act began the process of formally dismantling the system, transferring responsibilities to public assistance committees. The workhouses didn't vanish overnight. They were simply rebranded, their signs painted over to read Public Assistance Institutions. But the buildings remained, and the memories within their walls lingered like a bad smell. The final, symbolic end arrived with the birth of the modern welfare state after World War II. The Beveridge Report and the National Insurance Act of 1946 aimed to slay the 5 giants of want, disease, ignorance, squalor, and idleness. The NHS absorbed the old infirmaries. National assistance provided support without the taint of the pauper's oath. The workhouse, as a legal entity, was finally officially abolished. But here's the haunting part. The workhouse did not die, it simply evolved. You can see its DNA in modern bureaucracy. That cold, impersonal interrogation by the relieving officer. You feel it in the means testing of certain benefits, in the humiliating forms, and the suspicion that you are trying to cheat the system. The principle of less eligibility, that support must be less desirable than the worst job, echoes in the rhetoric around welfare caps and the deliberate inadequacy of some payments. The separation of families, it persists in a housing system that can force parents and children into different, distant hostels. The institutional architecture itself survived. Look at your local hospital, your town's old municipal building, that block of flats that seems oddly uniform and grim. Many were once workhouses. They were built to last, and so they have, their foundations sunk deep into a history of despair. You walk those corridors today, maybe to visit a newborn relative or to apply for a parking permit. And you are treading the same flagstones where thousands shuffled in silent, hungry lines. The stone holds the memory, even if we choose to forget. The true legacy of the workhouse isn't just in the laws it inspired or the buildings it left behind. It's in the deep cultural scar it carved into the British psyche. It instilled a generation's deep fear of poverty, a terror of falling through the cracks and being swallowed by the institution. It created a stigma around receiving help that persists to this day. A whispered shame that can prevent people from claiming what they are rightfully owed. The workhouse taught the poor to police themselves, to see their own misfortune as a personal failing. It was one of the most effective psychological weapons ever devised by the state against its own people. So the next time you hear a politician talk about making work pay or welfare dependency, listen carefully. You might just hear the faint metallic clang of a workhouse bell, a ghost from a not-so-distant past, reminding us that the distance between a safety net and a punishment regime is thinner than we'd like to believe. The workhouse is gone, but its shadow is long, and on a cold day you can still feel its chill.